A driver hits a 9-year-old boy, leaving him for dead by the side of the road. Worse still, the bloke behind the wheel was unlicensed and high on a cocktail of marijuana and morphine. Now, you'd think and you'd hope the courts would throw the book at a criminal like that. But the law, we discover, is riddled with loopholes.
If you run, if you hide, if you lie, if you do all these things wrong from the police, you can get away with things.
What's your take on the justice system?
The justice system is wrong. There is no justice system in Australia.
All too often, we hear from Australians who feel betrayed by our lawmakers and our courts. Well, that's exactly how Kevin Saul feels after the death of his 9-year-old son, Brendan.
Thank you, Jesus, and thank you all for coming.
He packed 60 years of living into 9 years of life.
We all wish you a very happy face.
He was cheeky, he was a larrikin, he was a sportsman, soccer, rugby, cricket, athletics, loved everything, didn't sit still. I know everyone says that about their children. Everyone says, oh, he was such a good boy. But, you know, he was a little bugger. He'd hit his brother over the head with a cricket bat if he got in his way. But at the same time, he was a good little kid. He didn't deserve what he got.
Kevin says his son Brendan got a life sentence, run down and left to die on the side of the road.
How could you not see somebody? It's 4 lanes wide and they're off on the gravel on the side.
While the hit-and-run driver, with a lengthy criminal record, got off.
Very well known to the police. Probably another 12 charges, maybe more.
That didn't count for anything?
No. He's a juvenile, so each case is its own new case.
So just so we're clear on a few facts here, this driver was underage.
Yes.
He was unlicensed.
Correct.
He was on drugs.
Yes.
He didn't swerve or stop.
That's right.
He killed your son.
Yes.
Kept driving.
Yes.
Hid.
Yes.
Lied.
Yes.
And now he's been cleared of dangerous driving while under the influence of drugs, occasioning death, and negligent driving, causing the death of your son.
That's right.
How do you cope with those facts?
I got up and walked out of court.
There's no justice for the family.
I think it's disgusting, absolutely.
The kid should have been taken out, hung up and shot.
The court heard the teenage driver and his mates smoked marijuana and took morphine just hours before the hit and run.
A number of people took chase and they reached speeds of 110 kilometres an hour and he was still getting away from them. And he went back to the house where the car was borrowed from originally.
The fugitives hid in this roof, but thanks to witnesses who surrounded the area, they were eventually arrested.
Once he admitted to being the driver, they then had to apply to the courts because he's under the age, he's a juvenile. We have to apply to the courts for permission to take forensic evidence.
And it was the delay in taking that evidence that helped the driver get off.
They have a 2-hour window to test for drugs. He ran, he hid.
Magistrate Paul McMahon ruled that it couldn't be proved beyond reasonable doubt the teenager was under the influence of drugs at the time of the crash, despite the fact he tested positive to morphine and cannabis 6 hours later.
And you can imagine how high he was at the actual time of impact. But according to the magistrate, we can't prove, and that's one of the loopholes and technicalities of the law, we can't prove at that point of impact his level, so therefore he's not guilty of dangerous driving.
Do you feel cheated?
Yeah, cheated. I've never really thought of it that way, but yes, you know, we've been robbed. Yeah, we've been robbed of a loving boy in our family. The community's been robbed of someone who we don't know what he was going to be. Yeah, cheated's not a bad word.
This town is in mourning. Not only mourning for the death of a child, but the loss of the sanity of the courthouse.
Dubbo radio announcer Leo De Cruz says the court decision sends the wrong message to juvenile offenders.
What we have to remember that this guy killed a child and he's got off.
If you all think that it's so wrong, then do something about it. We're not going to change Brendan. You know, we probably can't even change the outcome of this case, but we want to be able to prevent it from happening to any one of 2,000 or 3,000 kids here in town, across the state, across the country.
The hit-and-run driver will be sentenced next month on the lesser charges of unlicensed driving and failure to stop after an accident. But Kevin Saul wants to close the loophole, which helped Brendan's killer pay a smaller price.
Write to your Attorney General in each state. Write to the Federal Attorney General, although it's not his department, but let him know. Write to your Shadow Attorney General. Write to your local member and just say, look, this isn't right.
And Kevin Saul called us this afternoon to say he scored a meeting with the New South Wales Attorney General for this coming Thursday. Ben Fordham with that story.